March SAT exam predictions. Look, I took the digital SAT exam myself, and last time I made one of these prediction videos, students watched it and they actually saw the exact question I predicted. Let's start with the first one. A right circular cylinder has a volume of 30 cubic centimeters. So what happens if we triple the radius and shrink the height to 1/3? So what's the new volume? Lock in your answer. 3, 2, 1. Now here's exactly how you solve this question. Volume of a cylinder is just PR squared H. If you triple the radius, that R squared becomes 9 times bigger, but the height gets shrunk to 1/3. So the total volume gets multiplied by 9 times a third. So 30 times 3, that's 90 cubic centimeters. So our answer is 90. Prediction number 2. Prediction number 2 is even trickier. So keep watching this video in full screen. A cylindric jar is filled with dried berries, then topped off with juice before being sealed. So the base area is 72 centimeters squared and the height is 9 centimeters. 150 centimeters squares of juice fills the rest. So how much space do the berries actually take? So now it's time to lock in your answer. 3, 2, 1. Total volume of a cylinder is base area multiplied by height. And that's super simple. So total jar volume is 72 multiplied by 9. That's 648 centimeter cubes. To get the berries volume, just subtract the juice. 648 minus 150, which gives 498 centimeters cubes. That's your answer. Prediction number 3. Trust me, you don't want to skip it because this one is really wild. And it's low-key one of the most confusing questions on the SAT. But when you see the trick, you're gonna feel like your brain just leveled up. Which expression is equivalent to b 7/8? So now it's time to solve this prediction question. 3, 2, 1. So b in the power of 7/8 means root of 8 and power of 7. Root is the bottom number and power is a top number. But here's the crazy part. In order to find the correct answer choice, if we look at the choices, none of them have this. But what if we multiply both the top and the bottom by 8? 7 multiplied by 8 equals 56. 8 multiplied by 8 equals 64. So now it becomes b in the power of 56/64, which is exactly the same as the 64th root of b in the square root of 56. Before we continue, let me tell you something. Stop grinding SAT math practice tests. You're not getting a higher SAT score. You're just wasting time. Look, I scored 780 out of 800 in SAT Math, not by memorizing magic tricks, but by learning the exact patterns College Board repeats on every test. SAT Math isn't about being smart. It's about knowing the system. And right now, most students don't even know it. And students using this exact same method are going from 560 to 760. And I want to show you exactly how. So make sure to click the link below and watch the free video. And if you keep studying the way you're studying right now, your SAT score isn't going anywhere. So prediction number 4. This one looks very easy, but the SAT loves to sneak in tiny traps. We have 2 points, 1 line, and 1 mystery constant. And if you miss it, you might completely fail your test. And the question is, what is K? So now it's time to solve this question. 3, 2, 1. First, calculate the slope from the points -3, -4, and 1 and 2. So now let's convert equation to slope form. So 2y plus 3, kx equals 10. From here, y equals minus k over 2, x plus 5. So slope here is negative k over 2. And that's where SAT logic happens. So let's set minus k over 2 to 3 over 2. And from here we get k equals negative 3. And there it is. The only value of k that makes this line pass through both points is k equals negative 3. This one looks super chill, and it's about green roofs. But don't get fooled, because the SAT loves to hide tricky words in these sorts of passages that make you second guess yourself. So now is the time to solve this prediction question. 3, 2, 1. So urban ecologist Dr. Semeni Alvarez argues that green roofs, gardens installed on top of buildings are, despite high installation costs and structural requirements, gradually increasing the sustainability of cities. Technological innovations in lightweight, solar and modular systems have enhanced the feasibility of these roofs to basic environmental functions such as reducing heat and managing stormwater. Nevertheless, more complex benefits like significantly improving air quality or promoting biodiversity often depend on larger scale, carefully maintained installations. And the question is, what does this passage most directly suggest about green roofs? So notice the word nevertheless in the passage. That's a major SAT clue. It tells you the complex benefits are not guarantees. So choice A, they have become more practical for basic urban functions, but remain limited in supporting broader ecological goals. It sounds true. So now let's look at choice B. Widely adopted due to cost effectiveness. Text mentions high costs, but not cost effectiveness though, so that's why B is wrong. Choice C, increasingly accessible but inconsistent. Well, it's too vague, so C is wrong. Choice D, embraced by developers but ignored by public. Well, it's not even mentioned in the passage at all, so D is wrong. So only choice A matches exactly what the passage directly says.
So here we have an absolute value equation, and we are going to divide both sides by 3. So we're going to get x plus 4 in absolute value equals k over 3. And from here, in standard form, if b is gonna be more than 0, there are 2 solutions. And if b is equal to 0, then there is 1 solution. And if b is less than 0, then we have 0 solutions. And in this case, we want exactly 1 solution here. So that's why k over 3 is going to equal to 0. And after that, we're going to write x plus 4 in absolute value equals 0. And from here, we can remove the absolute value signs, and x is going to equal negative 4. Now, let's move on to the next question. Here, they are starting off with the drone starts off on the ground, and after that, it lands when t equals 12, and we have the maximum height at t equals 6, and it's going to equal 225. And this is maximum height. So when y equals 0, the roots are 0 and 12, as you can see here. So these are called roots, and they all the time they happen when y equals 0. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna plug in the vertex, which is the maximum height, into the standard factored form. And here, the first root is 0, that's why t minus 0, and the second one is t minus 12. So from here, we're gonna get this form, and after that, we're gonna now plug in the vertex, which is 6, 225. So h of 6 equals a multiplied by 6 minus 12, And from here, we get a multiplied by 6 multiplied by minus 6, and we're gonna get negative 36a. Now the last thing we want to do is we're gonna set this equal to 225. So a equals negative 6.25. So now the question is asking us to find height when t equals 4. And before that, let me rewrite the full equation. So here it is. So when t equals 4, what's the value of h over 4? So that's going to be negative 6.25 multiplied by 4 minus 12. And from here, we're going to get minus 6.25 multiplied by 4 multiplied by negative 8. And from here, we're going to get h of 4 is going to equal negative 6.25 multiplied by negative 32. And this is going to equal to 200. So the correct answer is B. Now let's move on to the next question. So for this one, we have this equation, and they're saying, and we can easily divide 24 from both sides, and we get this one, and x minus y is gonna equal to 2m, and from here y equals x minus 2m, and here the slope is 1 because here we have 1x, right? So after that, for no solution, because the question is asking us for no solution. For no solution, we should have the same slope, but different y-intercept. That's the most important thing. And if you look at the choices, choice D only matches this. So the correct answer is choice D, because the slope is 1. Before we continue, let me tell you something. Stop grinding SAT math practice tests. You're not getting a higher SAT score. You're just wasting time. Look, I scored 780 out of 800 in SAT math, not by memorizing magic tricks, but by learning the exact patterns College Board repeats on every test. SAT math isn't about being smart. It's about knowing the system. And right now, most students don't even know it. And students using this exact same method are going from 560 to 760. And I want to show you exactly how. So make sure to click the link below and watch the free video. And if you keep studying the way you're studying right now, your SAT score isn't going anywhere. So the question says, the measure of angle y is 60 degrees. What's the measure in radians of angle y? Now, here's what you need to know. Degrees and radians are just two different ways to measure an angle. And there is one simple rule that connects them. To convert degrees into radians, you always multiply by p over 180. Why? Because 180 degrees equals pi radians. That's the key facts that you gotta remember. So let's use it here. We've got 60 degrees multiplied by p over 180. So that's 60 divided by 180 is 1 over 3. So the answer is pi over 3. And that's it. So the correct answer is choice B. Scientific question. This passage sort of sounds kind of scientific, and they're talking about scientists, global deforestation, and forest definitions. But don't get intimidated. Let's go through piece by piece. So it's a scientist studying global deforestation are having trouble because different countries use different rules for what counts as a forest. So some define it based on tree coverage, others based on land size. An example of that is Norway says if you've got 10% tree cover,
that's a forest. Brazil is like, nah, we need 30% tree cover. And some countries use both vegetation and land use. Then the passage ends with this inconsistency makes it really hard for scientists to compare global deforestation. Okay, so now our summary is different countries have different definitions, so scientists can't compare stuff easily. So that's literally it. Now let's go through the choices. Scientists find it so simple to compare deforestation when all countries use the same definition. Well, yeah, that would be nice, but the whole point is that they don't have the same definition, so A is just wrong. Choice B. Despite differences in definition, scientists typically define forests as 30% or more tree coverage. If your SAT score has been stuck no matter how much you study, it's not your fault. You're just using the wrong system. Well, many students grind random questions they find, memorize formulas, and pray reading goes well. But top scorers don't do that. They follow patterns and they use prediction data and they train with systems. And that's exactly what I'm teaching in my 3-day SAT Accelerator. It's 3 days where I give you the exact strategies 1500 plus scorers use. And the crazy part, if you want to boost your SAT score fast and go into the exam with actual confidence instead of vibes, hit the link in the description and save your spot. Nope, that's 30% thing was only for Brazil, and the passage never said scientists use that rule globally. Choice C. It's difficult for scientists to compare global deforestation because countries define forests in different ways. That's literally our summary. That's the main idea. Choice D. Scientists ignore local definitions in Norway. What? That's just a random sentence someone made up, so it's wrong. So yeah, choice C is the answer. Prediction number 3, the line question. So here's our plan. To find the equation of a line, you just need to know 2 things, the slope and the y-intercept. Let's start with the easy part, the y-intercept. So let's look at the point when x is 0, y equals -4. That means the line crosses the y-axis at -4. So if you already know, the equation is gonna be something like y equals something x minus 4. Now let's find the something part, which is the slope here. The formula for slope is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So plug in the points that we have in the question. So that would be m equals 2 minus -4 divided by 2 minus 0. So that would be 2 plus 4 over 2, 6 over 2 equals 3. So the slope here is 3 and the y-intercept is -4. Y equals 3x minus 4. That's choice B. Prediction number 4, pattern question. The sentence is comparing 2 actions, what area students do and what regular students do. The first part says students start practicing pieces by Mozart as easily as age 4. So the structure is start practicing, and that's verb plus ing form, and that's the pattern here. Now the second part should match that same pattern because it's the same type of idea, same tense and same kind of verb. So it should be, while students in conventional programs usually only begin practicing such works at the age of 6. So now let's look at the answer choices. Well, choice D here is exactly what we wrote, begin practicing, which is clean, parallel, and perfect. So yeah, D is the correct answer here. Prediction number 5, stats question. So now let's talk about this SAT stats question. A juice company says their bottles have 2 liters on average. Maya grabs 50 bottles, measures them, and finds that the average is 2.08 liters. But there is a margin of error of 0.04 liters. Now they ask, for all bottles, what's the most appropriate conclusion about the average volume? V. So the margin of error basically means your result. 2.08 could be off a little bit in either direction. So we take the estimate plus or minus the margin of error. And that's the rule, mean plus or minus margin of error. So 2.08 minus 0.04 equals 2.04. And 2.08 plus 0.04 equals 2.12. And that gives us 2.04 and 2.12. And that's exactly choice A. The table shows Evergreen National Park visitors for 2015 and 2025, but the way the years are listed is not directly what you plug into the equations. So the question asks for V of t, the number of visitors t years after 2015. So t equals 0 corresponds to 2015, and t equals 10 corresponds to 2025. Now let's plug points into the answer choices instead of building the line from scratch. So let's start off with t equals 0. In 2015, there are 450,000 visitors, so we need an equation that gives v of 0 equals 550. So let's look at the options. Choice A, 450 minus 6 multiplied by 0 equals 450. Choice B, 450 minus 60 multiplied by 0 also equals 450. So A and B are correct when t equals 0. Choice C, so that would be 450 minus this crazy number, so that's wrong. Choice D, 450 minus 6 multiplied by 0 minus 2015. So that would be 450 plus that sort of crazy number, so that's also wrong. So C and D are clearly wrong here. Next, we should plug t equals 10 for 2025. So we want v of 10 equals 390. Choice A, 450 minus 6 multiplied by 10. So that would be 450 minus 60, which equals 390, which is something that we want. Choice B, 450 minus 60 multiplied by 10. And that would be 450 minus 600, which equals 150. Which is not something that we want. So this confirms it. A works perfectly. You just have to plug points in instead of risking slope calculations with all these fractions and negatives. And students often mess up by just trying to subtract the actual year numbers or miscalculating slope. So plug and play keeps it very clean and safe here. So here they're asking us to determine triangle is measured in degrees Celsius above 20 degrees. Which of the following does the model predict? These answers are basically describing how the number changes as t increases. For every increase in temperatures by 1 Celsius, the number of visitors decreases by 200. So let's check that. P of 0 equals 200. P of 1 equals 200 multiplied by 0.85 equals 170, so it didn't decrease by 200%, it only decreased by 30, and that already eliminates A. Next, for every increase in temperatures by 1 degree Celsius, the number of visitors decreases by 15%. Well, P of 1 equals 200 multiplied by 0.85, and that equals 170. That's exactly a 15% decrease, and it sounds promising. But we have to check the units. T is in degrees above 20 degrees, so an increase of 1 degree Celsius is exactly what this represents. So this looks correct. Option C says for every increase in temperatures by 5 degrees, the number of visitors decreases by 200. P of 5 equals 200 multiplied by 0.85 in the power of 5, which kind of equals 84. So the decrease is 200 minus 84, which equals 116, not 200, so that's wrong. Option D says for every increase in temperature by 5 degrees, the number of visitors decreases by 15%, but P of 5 equals 200 multiplied by 0.85 in the power of 5, which sort of equals 84. So that's a decrease of much more than 15% because exponential decreases compound over multiple increments. So that's wrong too. Now, they're asking us to find the y-intercept of an exponential equation, and this can seem very tricky, But the pattern is really straightforward once we recognize it. So the function y equals c multiplied by 4.5 in the power of x minus d. And it's defined in the xy plane where c and d are positive constants. The question asks for the y-intercept, which means the value of y when x equals 0. Let's plug in x equals 0. So we get y equals c multiplied by 4.5 in the power of 0 minus d. So 4.5 in the power of 0 is 1. So this simplifies to y equals c minus this. And this is exactly how we find the y-intercept in any function. Set x equals 0 and simplifies. Now let's check the answer choices. Choice A is not correct because it ignores the negative d. Choice B is not correct because it ignores c multiplier. Choice C is exactly what we calculated. Choice D is the reverse and would be negative if C is more than D, so it's wrong. So the key takeaway is for exponential functions of the form y equals c a in the power of x minus d, the y-intercept is always c minus d, because a in the power of 0 equals 1. So always set x equals 0 and simplify it first, and this will be your safest move on the SATs. So here they're asking us to find the length of the longer side of a rectangular given a ratio and the perimeter. So this is way more straightforward than exponential stuff, but let's carefully read the story. In rectangle wxyz, the ratio of wx to xy is 7:4, and the total perimeter is 132 meters. So first, let's translate the ratio into variables. So let the shorter side xy equal 4k and the longer side wx equals 7k. We do this because ratios can be scaled by a common factor to make calculations easier. Next, remember the perimeter formula. Perimeter equals 2 multiplied by length plus width. So here, that would be 2 multiplied by wx plus xy equals 2 multiplied by 7k plus 4k, which equals 2 multiplied by 11k, which equals 22k. And the problem says the perimeter is 132 meters, so we set up the equation 22k equals 132, solving for k equals 6. Now plug k back in to find the actual side length. So the longer side wx equals 7k, which is 7 multiplied by 6, which equals 42 meters. And the shorter side xy equals 4k, which equals 24 meters. So the length of the longer side is 42 meters. And the key takeaway here is when you get a ratio and perimeter, always turn the ratio into variables. Use the perimeter formula and make sure to solve for the scaling factor and then compute the actual length. And the SAT likes this approach because it keeps arithmetic simple and it avoids mistakes with fractions or proportions. So here they're asking us to outline the significance of its contribution to literature. So let's start by reading the first sentence, seeing exactly what the question is asking. So the student wants to outline the significance of this contributions to literature. So the key here is the significance that is underlined in our minds right now. So if we read the answer choices and ask ourselves, does this accomplish the goal? Choice A just states that he was celebrated during that Renaissance. That is true, but does it fully convey the significance? No. So you can eliminate it. Choice B mentions his poetry addressing social issues and reflecting experiences of African Americans. Well, this is important context, but it doesn't capture the breadth of his contributions, so it's wrong. Choice C combines jazz rhythms with everyday language in his poetry, making literature accessible while promoting cultural awareness. So this seems to hit the significance point because it explains how he influenced literature stylistically and also culturally. Now, choice D mentions inspiration for generations and being studied in schools. This is true, but focuses more on influence rather than the direct contribution itself. Now, we check the student's notes just to confirm choice C uses relevant information from the notes. Yes, it combines jazz rhythms and everyday language and mentions accessibility and cultural awareness, and all these points are in the notes. Therefore, choice C is the best one here because it directly addresses the significance of his contributions to literature rather than just stating facts or later influence. And if you're confident, you can skip the last step when you're in a rush, but checking notes can help you in the second module. Have an equilateral triangle, equal sides, equal angles, with a perimeter of 876 centimeters. But here's where it gets insane. The triangle is inscribed in a circle. That means all three vertices touch the circle perfectly. And they want us to find W when the radius equals W multiplied by the square root of 3 centimeters. Most students would panic right now, but not you. So firstly, we should find the side length. So this is an equilateral triangle, which means all three sides are identical. So perimeter equals 876 centimeters, and side length would be 876 divided by 3, which equals 292 centimeters. Now we have to find the connection between the side length and radius. So when an equilateral triangle is inscribed in a circle, there is a magical relationship. Radius equals side length divided by the square root of 3. This is the formula that can change this SAT question. So the formula that can take you from being a struggling student to crushing these types of problems. So here we have R equals 292 divided by the square root of 3. So now we know that R equals W multiplied by the square root of 3. So 292 divided by the square root of 3. And this will equal to W in the square root of 3. So 292 equals W multiplied by 3. So W equals 292 divided by 3. Sentence that we care about here says any graduate from the boot camps who arrived in San Francisco with a prototype in their laptop could take no shorter road to seeing it develop than that, which led to the office of Dr. Markova. So let's pull out some keywords here. No shorter road, which is the underlined portion here. And this means that going to Dr. Markova was the best option. If you want to develop your idea, seeing it developed, this tells us what she does. She helps programmers bring their ideas to life. So here, our conclusion or summary of the sentence is that if you wanted your app to succeed, going to Dr. Markova was the best move. Now let's understand the role of this sentence, because when we have a phrase that is underlined, it's more about the sentence than just about this word. Now let's think, why does this author include this? What does it tell us about Dr. Markova? So the passage says she welcomes everyone, even if their ideas are not amazing. She's brutally honest and doesn't sugarcoat her feedback. But despite her bluntness, people still go to her because she's important. So our summary here that Dr. Markova is a big deal. If you're a new developer, getting help from her is a game changer. So now let's try to eliminate some wrong answer choices. So here we have a choice A. It conveys Dr. Markova's lack of interest in continuing to support new programmers. Well, no, the passage literally says she welcomes everyone. She might be blunt, but she's still supporting them. Choice B, it explains Dr. Markova's view of the quality of technological innovations of the time. There is no mention of what she thinks about technology in general, just that she helps people whether their ideas are good or bad. Choice C creates a contrast between the inexperience of a young developer and the wisdom of Dr. Markova. This might sound good, but that's not what this sentence does. It's saying she's the best path to succeed. It's not comparing her experience to theirs. Choice D, it emphasizes the degree to which Dr. Markova's support is consequential for inexperienced developers. Boom, this matches our summary perfectly, and the passage tells us going to her is the best way to get an idea developed, which shows how important her help is for new programmers. So the final best answer to it is choice D. By breaking it down this way, even if you didn't really understand the passage wholly, you can follow the logic and see why D is the best choice. Imagine if every hard SAT question suddenly felt easy, not because the test got easier, but because you know exactly how to break it down. Most students think the SAT is tricky. The test makers try to confuse us. Yes, but once you learn how they create those hard questions, they become predictable. And right now, SAT questions feel like a magic trick. They seem impossible to solve, but what if someone showed you exactly how the tricks work? Suddenly, it's not magic anymore, it's just a pattern. That's exactly what I do in these types of videos, and if you're interested, you can click the join button below. So anytime we have a scaling question like this, we should start by understanding how the scaling affects the map and the distances represented on it. So they tell us that the original map has a width of 60 inches and that 1 inch represents 20 miles in real life. That means the entire width of the map represents 60 multiplied by 20, which is 1200 miles, which is the actual width of the area covered by the map now. They shrink the map by 80%, meaning that the new map keeps the same proportions but is only 20% of the original width. So 60 multiplied by 0.2 equals 12 inches. So the new map here has a width of 12 inches, but still represents the same real-world area of 1200 miles. So the question is asking us, on the smaller map, what's the actual distance represented by 1 inch? Well, if the entire width of the smaller map is 12 inches and represents 1200 miles, you can just divide 1200 by 12, and that equals to 100 miles per inch. So this is just a basic proportion problem where we're shrinking the map, but the real world area stays the same, meaning that each inch now covers more real distance. And notice how the SAT likes to set up trap answers here. For example, choice A, 5 miles per inch, and choice B, 10 miles per inch. And those choices might seem tempting if you misunderstood the problem and assumed everything was shrinking uniformly. But actually, when a map gets smaller, each inch covers more distance, not less, which is why the correct answer has to be a much larger number. And just a quick SAT strategy tip. Whenever they give you a shrinking or enlarging problem, always check if the total world area stays the same, because that's often the key to solving it quickly. So if you saw that the total distance didn't change, then you could have guessed that the new scale had to be larger than 20 miles per inch, eliminating the smaller answer choices immediately. So let's read the passage. Among the many overlooked artists of her era was Clara Ellison, whose painting exuded an air of quiet brilliance, though few could determine whether this was due to genuine mastery or mere mystique. Her canvases, often obscured by layers of symbolism, seem to hint at an artistic genius that critics could neither confirm nor deny. Her long-lost letters, discovered decades later, might provide some insight into her creative process, but given that they were largely composed of ambiguous metaphors and unfinished thoughts, they might as well have remained undiscovered. Okay, so what stand out here? So few could determine whether her talent was real or not. Critics couldn't decide. The letters didn't really help, they just added to the mystery. And that's the basic sense of it. So let's check out the choices here. Choice A, she has the reputation of a remarkable artist, but it's unclear whether she truly possesses extraordinary talent. Well, okay, so remarkable artist. Yeah, the passage says her paintings had quite brilliance, but unclear whether she truly possesses extraordinary talent. Yep, this matches perfectly with critics could neither confirm nor deny her genius. And I like this choice. It really feels like neutral and it's very hard to prove it wrong. So let's check out the others as well. So choice B, she intentionally avoided public recognition despite making significant contributions to the art world. Intentionally avoided public recognition? Did she do that? No, nothing in the passage says she was avoiding fame. And it's not like she was hiding in a cabin somewhere. It's just that critics didn't know if she was actually good. So I don't really like this one. Choice C, she appeared to be a visionary painter, but her writing suggested some of her work was fraudulent. Fraudulent? It's a super strong word. Did the passage ever say her work was fake? Nope, it just says the meaning was unclear, not that she was lying. And it's a very strong word and there is no proof in the passage. Choice D, she would have been widely recognized if her artistic influences had not been difficult to interpret. Would have been widely recognized? Does the passage say that? No, it just says people couldn't figure out if she was truly great. If her artistic influences had not been so difficult to interpret, the passage talks about symbolism and mystery, but it doesn't say that the reason she wasn't famous. And in the story, there is too much assumption, so that's why that's not a correct answer choice. Now that we know the final correct answer choice is choice A. Clothing store buys shirts at a wholesale price of $5 each and resells them each at a retail price that is 320% of the wholesale price. At the end of the season, any remaining shirts are marked at a discounted price that is 75% off the retail price. What is the discounted price of each remaining shirt in dollars? So this is such a great question because it has some serious traps, and I would know that going in, first, we're dealing with the percentages, which are notoriously tricky on the SAT. And second, it's a multi-step problem, meaning there is a huge opportunity for you to make a mistake. So if you don't stay careful, you might make a mistake here. So let's break it down step by step. So here we are given that a clothing store buys shirts for $5 each. Then it resells them at 320% of the wholesale price. That off is really important because it tells us that we're not just taking a normal percentage of a number. That means we use this formula. New price equals original multiplied by a percentage as a decimal. The original here is $5 and 320% as a decimal is 3.20 because we move the decimal 2 places on to the left. So 5 multiplied by 3.2 would equal to 16. So the retail price of the shirt is $16. But you're not done yet. There is a second step that you should take. Any remaining shirts are marked at a 75% discount. Now the phrase 17% off is very different from saying 70% off. This is where a lot of students get trapped because off means we subtract that percentage from 100. So instead of multiplying by 0.75, we multiply by 1 minus 0.75, which is 0.25, because 75% off means you're only paying 25% of the original price. So $16 multiplied by 0.25, and that's equals to 4. So that's our final answer, $4 per shirt. And if you wanted to do this all in one step, you could have done 5 multiplied by 3.2 multiplied by 0.25, and you would get 4. But since these percentages can be tricky, I highly recommend you to break it down. In 1954, something happens that changed the world forever. A man named Dr. Jonas Salk developed the first polio vaccine, a single discovery, a single breakthrough. Millions of lives were saved. But here's the real question. How do we measure the impact of this man's work? Medical researchers argue that Salk's contribution to eradicating polio is the vaccine's mass immunization campaigns and the dramatic collapse of polio cases worldwide. So let's break this down step by step. So the answer is right in front of you. So step number 1 is thinking before you look. So first, pause, take a deep breath. What's the passage really saying? So Jonas Salk made a vaccine. That vaccine didn't just help. It wiped polio off the map in most of the world. And his contribution is obviously connected to this massive success. Now, before even looking at the answer choices, now I want you to ask yourself, well, is Salk's contribution irrelevant, criticized, or hidden? Think about this. No, it's not clear as day. So step number 2 is eliminating the nonsense answer choices. Look at the options. Some of them are ridiculous. And let's have a look at choice A, irrelevant to. Are you joking? The vaccine saved millions of lives. Of course, his contribution is relevant. So let's eliminate choice A. Choice B, criticized by. Criticized? Who is even criticizing a man who literally helped eradicate a disease? So this choice is wrong. Choice D, obscured by. Obscured? No, his work isn't hidden. It's in the history books, right? So we can eliminate choice D as well. Now, if you have a look at choice B, evident in, bingo. South's contribution is clearly seen in the success of the vaccine. The streets of Manhattan are a war zone. Not for humans, and no. For pigeons, for rats, for every creature that is desperately fighting for the survival in a city that never sleeps. You think New York is just buildings and people? That's completely wrong. It's an ecosystem, a battlefield. Every single square inch of the space is contested. The competition is so brutal. And in the middle of this chaotic struggle, we have one crucial word, which is claim. What does it even mean? It's not some legal document or it's not some peaceful negotiation. No one is politely stepping aside and saying, "Oh, excuse me, Mr. Rat, this spot is yours." No. It's the fight, it's survival, it's about who gets to stay and who gets pushed out. So, which answer choice captures this sort of ruthless energy? Let's kind of break them down. So, starting with choice A, declare. Declare ownership of. It sounds really fancy, right? Like a king sitting on a throne saying, "I declare this land mine." But we're not talking about royalty. We're talking about rats and pigeons battling for scraps. So this choice is wrong. Choice B, demands compensation for. What? Who's getting paid? Like, a rat isn't walking into a court saying, "I demand financial compensation." No, it's not saying that. So we can literally eliminate this choice as well. Now let's have a look at choice C, reserve exclusively for. This choice looks like they are booking an Airbnb reserved from this ledge from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. No, this is not a reservation system, so this choice is wrong. Now let's have a look at choice D, compete to obtain. Yes. This is the war. This is competition. This is the very essence of what's happening on these streets. Every bird, every rodent is fighting for its place, for its food, for its survival. And this is the correct answer choice. So the final answer is choice D, compete to obtain. If you don't get this prediction question right, you'll stay stuck and you will keep getting the same mediocre scores, the same frustrating results, the same feeling of, why am I not improving? So let me show you how to solve this SAT prediction question. So step number 1 is looking at the question again slowly. So we are not just finding an answer. What we are doing is that we are finding the answer. So let's read it again. Feel it. What's this actually asking? So it's not asking for a fact, and it's asking for a function of what the underlined sentence is, and it's asking what the underlined sentence is doing in the passage. So the second step is reading the passage, but this time with awareness. So when studying the behavior of wild wolves in Yellowstone National Park, researchers observed a striking change in pack dynamics after the reintroduction of wolves to the area. Shifting from their solitary hunting practices to highly organized cooperative hunting strategies, the wolves began to take down larger prey with greater efficiency. This behavior, influenced by environmental pressures, allowed the wolves to survive in an ecosystem that previously struggled with a lack of predators. Do you see it? the first sentence sets up the big change. The underlying sentence zooms in on that event. And the last sentence explains why it matters. And that middle sentence is elaborating, it's giving the details that make the change real. So the next step is predicting before looking at the answer choices. And I will tell you this right now. Smart test takers predict first. And if you just jump to the answer choices, you get trapped. So your brain latches onto whatever sounds real good in answer choices. But if you already know what you're looking for, then you can smell the right answer. What is our prediction then? So the underlined sentence is adding detail to the previous one. It's giving a clear picture of the change in hunting strategies. So the next step is destroying the wrong answer choices. So let's go one by one. Choice A, it elaborates on the previous sentence statements about a change in the wolf's hunting strategies. Oh, this matches our prediction exactly. Choice B, it provides information about how the ecosystem evolved in support of a claim about wolf behavior advanced in the following sentence. Nope, this isn't about the ecosystem evolving. That's just background info in the last sentence. Choice C, it recounts a moment in the wolf's adaptation process that ensured the survival of their species, which is summarized in the following sentence. It sounds a little fancy but strong. The sentence isn't about a moment. It's just explaining the behavior. Choice D, it presents evidence that challenges the previous sentence characterization of wolf pack dynamics. What? There is no contradiction. The sentence is supporting the first one, not challenging it. So the final step is locking in the answer. So the final correct answer choice is choice A. That's it. That's how you dominate this type of SAT question. Now, if you're still hesitating, if you're still doubting yourself, ask yourself this. Are you actually applying these steps when you practice? Or are you just skimming the answer choices and hoping for the best? This is an SAT structure question, and you know what that means. They're not asking for what the passage says, they're asking how is this passage built. Think of it like architecture, like dissecting a blueprint. The first line, a question, and it pulls you in. It makes you wonder, why do sunflowers tilt but oaks don't? Then the passage offers a theory, a possible answer. It introduces oxen, it explains the difference, it tells us why one plant moves and the other stays still. So what's the structure here? It's question, then answer. So that's it. Simple, direct, and clean. Now, let's destroy the wrong answer choices one by one. Choice A, the text compares the growth patterns of two plant species, then explains how those patterns are affected by environmental changes. No. The passage does compare two plants, sure, but where is the part about environmental changes? Nowhere, not a single mention. So choice A is wrong. Choice B, the text presents a theory about two species, then discusses facts that weaken the theory. weaken the theory where the whole passage supports the theory. It's not questioning it, so we can eliminate choice B as well. Choice C, the text poses a question about two species, then presents a possible answer. Yes. That's exactly what happens. Keep this one. Now, choice C. The text describes a behavior shared by two species, then discusses other behaviors shared by them. Shared behaviors? No, these two plants are so different. One moves, one doesn't. So this choice is completely wrong. The correct answer is choice C because it's simple. And that is how you analyze SAT structure questions. You break it down, you look at the blueprint, and you choose the answer that actually fits, not the one that just sounds smart. Now, go apply this method in every SAT structure question that you see, and watch how easy those questions are gonna become. So the first step is reading the question. Here is the question. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? Pause right here. This is where most people mess up. Main purpose questions are not about random details. They are about one thing. Why did the author write this? Think of it like a text from a friend. What are they really trying to say? What is their main points? That's what we need to figure out. So the next step is reading the text. Popular systems are that solar panels and wind turbines dominate renewable energy discussions because they've changed global markets. Lesser known systems are the ones that says wave energy converters could also be crucial in fighting climate change. And a key point here is that unlike solar and wind, wave energy is still untapped, but it has huge potential for large-scale energy production. So the next step number 3, is predicting the answer choice. All right, so let's break this down. The first part, which is solar and wind energy. They're already famous. They are the celebrities of renewable energy. And the second part talks about wave energy, the underrated underdog. But scientists think it could be huge. The author isn't listing some problems. They're not saying wave energy is better than solar and wind. They're just shining a spotlight on wave energy's potential. So what is our prediction? Our prediction is that the passage is explaining why wave energy is an exciting and promising field in renewable energy research. So the next step number 4, is analyzing the answer choices. Now let's go full on these 4 answer choices. Choice A, to describe the technological challenges faced by wave energy systems during development. Nope, the passage never talks about problems or struggles. If this were a boxing match, this option wouldn't even be in the ring. So we can eliminate this choice. Choice B, to present reasons why renewable energy researchers consider wave energy systems to be promising. Yes, this is exactly what we predicted, and the passage hypes up waves energy's potential and says why scientists are excited about it. So let's keep this choice locked in. So choice C, to compare the efficiency of wave energy systems with that of solar and wind energy. Nah, there is no wave energy is 27% more powerful. Like, nonsense here. The passage isn't comparing efficiency. It's just explaining waves energy's potential. And we can eliminate this choice. Choice D, to argue that wave energy systems are more effective at reducing emissions than solar or wind energy. Absolutely not. The passage isn't making an argument. No one is saying wave energy is the champion of renewables. So we can eliminate this choice as well. So the next step number 5, is deciding on the final answers. So the best choice here is choice B, to present reasons why renewable energy researchers consider wave energy systems to be promising. Now, I want to give you some tips to approach these types of questions. So the first tip is think big picture. Don't get lost in the small details. Instead, zoom out. Ask, why did the author write this? Step number 1, reading the text carefully. The text is about a study where Dr. Marcus Reyes is looking at how exercise affects the release of endorphins, the feel-good chemicals in your brain. And here's the key part. Low-intensity cycling doesn't really do much for endorphins. High-intensive cycling, boom, endorphins spike. But here's the most important part. Heart rates didn't go past a certain level. So Dr. Reyes didn't think the increase in endorphins came from physical strain. Instead, she thinks it was the intensity of the exercise that caused the endorphins to release more. So the heart rate finding is important because it helps Dr. Reyes figure out why the endorphins were increased. Without it, he might have thought that increased endorphins were just from physical strain. Now, the next step is predicting our answer choice. All right, so let's predict. Here's what we need to know. The heart rate not going past a certain level is super important because it rules out that the endorphins were released just from physical effort. And this means the heart rate finding is crucial because it shows the increase in endorphins was due to intensity and not the physical effort, which, let's be honest, we all know is sometimes overrated, right? So based on this, I predict the answer is going to have something to do with ruling out an alternative explanation for the endorphin increase. So the next step number 3, is analyzing the answer choices. Now let's go through each answer choice really carefully. And we have to be like you're picking the best ice cream flavor from the freezer. You always choose the right one, right? Right. So choice A, it provided a preliminary evidence that endorphin levels increase during high-intensity cycling. Nope, the passage already told us the endorphins increase during high-intensity cycling. The heart rate finding isn't giving us that information. It's telling us why the increase happened. So we can literally eliminate this choice. Choice B, it suggested that changes in endorphin levels, endorphin release may occur during both high and low intensity exercise. Oh no. This isn't what the passage is saying. It doesn't suggest that low intensity exercise causes endorphin increases. It's focusing on high intensity exercise. So we can delete this one too. So choice C, it ruled out a potential alternative explanation for the increase in endorphin levels during high intensity cycling. Bingo, this is exactly what the passage is saying. The heart rate didn't go past a certain level, so the increase in endorphins couldn't be from physical strain, as Dr. Reyes was able to rule that out, and this is the right answer. Choice D, it clarified that endorphin release during exercise depended on participants' individual fitness levels. Nope. We didn't talk about individual fitness levels in the passage. The study didn't focus on that at all. We can toss this one away. So the next step is deciding on the final answer. And the correct answer choice is choice C. It ruled out an alternative explanation for why the endorphins increase during high-intensity cycling. The heart rate finding also helped it explain that it was the intensity, not the strain, that caused that increase.
Now you know prediction questions, but if you don't practice with hard SAT questions, then you might fail the test. That's why I made a video where I solved 6 hard SAT questions and the hacks to solve them. So watch this video to master those exact hacks.